I'm here today to give you all the 11 statistics that will change your mind and the way you think about depression. So, the statistics, as I'm looking them up on my phone, so I will read them to y'all. The 11 statistics that are about depression and that will honestly show you a bigger worldview rather than just the things that I tell you, will actually give you a bigger worldview on depression. So, statistic number one, 350 million people in the world suffer or in some way are affected by some form of depression. For most of you who do not know different forms of depression, there is bipolar depression disorder, which is when your depression just kind of, you can be at an extreme high or an extreme low. There is persistent depression, which is when your depression lasts for more than 2 years. There's minor depression, there's major depression, there's actually seasonal depression, when there are some people who fall into depression episodes depending on the season. There are people who naturally become depressed just because it's wintertime. And if you do not believe me, please, I encourage you to look it up and to do research. But there are a multi different types of depression and different forms of depression. So just because you're not at the exact same level that this person is, and they're like, oh, I'm on medication, I'm seeing a psychiatrist, blah, blah, blah. Just because you're not at that level does not mean that you're not battling depression or battling anxiety. There's generalized anxiety disorder, which is just a basic disorder that a good portion of college students have, where anxiety and stress to them is just something that is a lot and a lot to handle. There's extreme anxiety when anything just causes any type of problem. So it's just one thing that I will kind of bring up when it comes to this statistic is to look up and see maybe if you are feeling a few symptoms or feel something, to just look up and actually research different things or research different types of depression. So that is one thing. There are 350 million people in this world who suffer from depression. Fact number two, 11% of adolescents have a depressive disorder by the age of 18. Let me say that again for the people in the back. 11% is the percentage of adolescents who have had a depressive disorder by the age of 18. Yeah, by the age of 18. Meaning, there are kids 13, 14, 15, 16 who, as a teenager, as a 13-year-old, is battling a depressive disorder. And they honestly probably may not know that they are battling a depressive disorder. They may not know that what they're dealing with and what they're going through and what they're thinking about is not normal. It is not normal to wake up every day and have to force yourself out of bed. It is not normal to have thoughts about harming yourself. It is, no matter what TV tries to say, no matter what Netflix says, and oh, well, this is a movie and this girl cut herself and she's fine. It is not normal to want to harm yourself. Point blank, period. It is not normal to have suicidal thoughts. As a 13-year-old, having suicidal thoughts is a very big issue and a very big problem. It's something that needs to be addressed. Whether it is addressed with a parent or addressed with a counselor. Just like the statistic says, 11% of adolescents in this world have some type of depression disorder episode or some type of problem before the age of 18. Before the age of 18 is also before college. So before they even get to college, which is one of, I do not care what any adult says, one of the most stressful points in your life. Before they reach the most stressful point in their life, they already have battled depression episode. And with that being said, we will now move on to fact number three. 70% is the percentage by which women are more likely than men to experience depression in their lifetime. We're just going to go right on past that one. What are we on, 4? Number 4. 14% is the percentage of women from a 2013 postpartum depression study who had the disorder 4 to 6 weeks after giving birth. For those of you who do not know what postpartum is actually a phase of depression that women, after they give birth, a few weeks after they give birth, they actually slip into depression. Postpartum is very serious. It is not something that should be taken lightly. It is not something that should just be brushed off. There are women who, very unfortunately, who do actually kill themselves after having a child because of postpartum depression. It is literally the equivalent to major depression, just brought on more so because of having a child. And it might honestly not show itself as depression. One very key thing with postpartum depression, honestly, and what I've heard from a lot of other mothers, is being afraid of your child. Just after having the child, after being home and taking it back home, just knowing like I really have to raise this and take care of this child as my own, and I'm not ready to do that. Having extreme thoughts like that is a part of postpartum depression. So yes, that is another fact that is very important. Next, which is a very big fact that I really want to talk on and really want to speak about, 30% is the number of college students who reported feeling depressed, which disrupted their ability to function in school. 30%. Now, me attending a relatively large university, a lot of people who watch this may feel like 30% is actually not a lot or not a big number. However, 30% means that if you have over 10 friends, if you can on your hand count 10 friends, over that limit, one of them suffers from depression or has had a depressive episode or has at some point fell into a very bad depression era. 30% of college students. Meaning that once again, this depression and anxiety and mental illnesses is not something that needs to continue to be looked over. It is something that in this day and age is very serious and very real. Because there are a lot of college students who do not know and do not understand that they need to seek help and they need to speak to someone and they need to figure things out. Because just like it says, and I can easily be a primary source to say that depression very well and very much so affects schoolwork. It affects your mindset. It affects your ability to function. It affects your ability to get work done. Depression can become a very big problem, especially in college. Because in college, you honestly don't have time to handle depression. So for 30% to be the number of college students who battle depression is actually a very, even though the 30% sounds small, it is still a good amount of students and a good amount of kids who need to be touched and who need to be reached and who need to be helped. And now I'm actually going to wrap it up and just give you all the last 3 facts. So we have 3 more facts about depression. The next one is 50% is the percentage of Americans with major depression who do not seek treatment for the mental illness. That means exactly half of the people who suffer from mental illness do not seek treatment. That means half of the people who are battling suicidal thoughts do not seek treatment, do not get help. They feel as though it's not that big of a deal. They feel as though it's not important to seek help or to seek treatment or to try to talk to someone. So once again, last 2. The next one is 10%, which is the estimated number of American adults aged 65 and older who have a diagnosable depressive disorder. So if we even take the focus off of college students, 10% of Americans over the age of 65 have or suffer from some type of depressive disorder. 10%. Once again, another percentage that may sound small. However, when looking at it as a big picture, 10% is a lot. 10% means that there are people's grandmothers and grandfathers who are left alone and do not hear from their family, are not spoken to by their family other than the holidays, and they battle depressive disorders. Once again, something that needs to be focused on and needs to be talked about. But we will wrap this up, and actually I will go into my last fact, and the last fact is 10 to 20, which is the number of weeks psychotherapy treatments for depression usually last. And it also goes on to say that in order for antidepressants to take full effect, experts recommend giving the medication 4 to 6 weeks, which is true. I know when it came to my doctor, and when my doctor put me on my medication, he automatically told me from the gate that it was going to take 2 weeks for the medication to actually kick in and get into my system, and for me to actually notice effects. Which is one big thing why when you do feel as though you suffer from depression and that you need help, it is very important that as soon as you figure that out, you go to your psychiatrist or you go to your doctor. Because the sooner that they give you the medicine, you start taking it, the sooner it'll kick in and the sooner you will feel better. I will go into medication and the medication that I take and the pros and cons of medication in the next Depression 101 video, but this is actually going to be it for today. And kind of a few facts just for just for fun and just so you all can actually see where I'm coming from, and that there are actually a very strong amount of people who suffer from mental illnesses, whether it be college kids, senior citizens, or just anyone. Mental illnesses, no matter the race, ethnicity, where you're from, where you go, how much money you have, mental illnesses do not care. Mental illnesses are, the way that I like to put in my mind, mental illness is a very big monster that haunts any and everyone. And it does not matter. And it is very hard to battle. But once again, we will get into all of that later on in the Depression 101 videos. Thank you guys very, very, very much for watching. Please subscribe, like, and comment. Please leave feedback. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram so you all can stay tuned. And I will see you all next week. Bye.